Welcome to the Daily Boogie.
Let's check out a little bit of Jorge Ramos, ladies and gentlemen.
Jorge Ramos is a Univision anchor. He just wrote a book. It's called Stranger, The Challenge of a Latino Immigrant in the Trump Era. He joins us tonight. Jorge, thanks for coming on.
Tucker, great to be here again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and congratulations on the book. And the book is partly about what American policies ought to be. We're talking about what America's policies ought to be on this show. And so in light of that, I want to ask you about a tweet that you just sent out, which I was amazed by. It was in Spanish, but here's what the tweet said. I got my voter credential to vote from the United States in the elections in Mexico on July 1st. Now I have to register and wait for my ballot by mail. It's an expensive and complicated process, but you have to do it. I thought you were an American.
I am Mexican and I am American. That's completely legal. And I wish I could give you an easier explanation on my identity, but that's exactly who I am. And I was born in Mexico. I became a U.S. citizen, and that's why I have the...
I wish I could give you an easier explanation on my identity. Yes, because that's what we need. More identity, folks. Let's keep racking it up.
Chance to do that, and I feel very proud of being from Mexico and very proud from being from the United States.
Wait, when you became, okay, there's nothing wrong with being from Mexico. I agree with that completely. What's wrong is that when you became a citizen, you took this following oath. This was a pledge, and you said you swore absolutely and entirely to renounce all allegiance to any foreign state you have ever been a citizen of. You took that oath, but you're voting in a foreign election? How does that, why are you doing that?
I'm voting in Mexico and I'm voting here in the United States, and there's absolutely nothing wrong. Some countries allow that, and that's precisely why I have a U.S. passport and I have a Mexican passport.
But there is something.
And by the way, I'm not the only one. And
it's not just. I'm not the only one. Don't pick on me. Stop bullying me.
Fully in the U.S. electorally, and I can do exactly the same thing with Mexico. And the relationship between Mexicans and Mexican.
Ben K. Veritas says Tucker cracked the code. Turned out it was in Spanish.
Americans is perfectly legal.
But
so I see absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Okay, but I think a lot of our viewers may not know that you can vote in a foreign election because, again, and you had to show ID to do that.
Now they know.
You had to show ID
and
to
it's
vote in the
happening in Mexico, and it's happening in Europe, and it's happening with many countries, not only Mexico and the U.S. Last time I checked, Mexico is not invading the U.S., and we're not at war. That's the last time I checked.
You're not invading the United States, and yet Mexican citizens live in this country, vote in Mexican elections, and then write books telling Americans like me how we should run our government. When you clearly haven't renounced your loyalty to a foreign government, why should I take you seriously?
I happen to be also a U.S. citizen, and sometimes, and that's precisely the title of the book, sometimes I do feel like a stranger because it seems, as you just pointed out,
sometimes I feel like a stranger. Maybe it's because I'm a big shot host on an all Spanish speaking network and I vote in Mexican elections. You know, sometimes I feel like, you know, people don't consider me like a real American. I couldn't possibly imagine why you would feel like that, Jorge. I mean, I'm at a loss. I can't imagine why you would feel like a stranger when you're voting in Mexican elections.
That for many Americans, I'm not American enough, and believe me,
you're voting in a foreign election. It's not about Mexico. It could be any country. But why should I take you seriously as an American if you are still tied to a country, despite the oath you took, apparently disingenuously, to renounce your ties to that country?
Liberal translation. We are above the law. Get over it. I like liberal translation. I'm going to follow liberal translation. Fantastic. You now have 2 followers.
You're weighing in a foreign election. In what sense are you fully American? Sincerely.
Okay, well, just because of my arguments and just because I'm a U.S. citizen, just as you are. So now it seems that
I'm not voting in foreign elections.
So it seems that I cannot complain about Donald Trump being the most anti-immigrant president since the 1960s.
Of course, you can complain all you want. You can complain all you want.
Simply because I can.
Here we go again. It seems I cannot complain about Donald Trump being the most anti-immigrant president of all time simply because I'm a Mexican? I mean, an American? I mean, you know, right?
But I'm asking why I should take you seriously, and I'm just going to let our viewers decide their view on that. But let me ask you about the story that we just played. So here you have someone who has been charged by authorities with homicide and fleeing the scene of a homicide. And federal authorities say this guy's in the country illegally. Nobody disputes that. And the city of Denver decides to let him go on a very small bond. Why wouldn't they call the federal government? Why would they prevent the federal government from enforcing federal law?
Well, the way you presented this story is, I don't know why you want to become state media, Tucker, because you are criminalizing all immigrants. You're suggesting...
Does this shit even work anymore? That's like, Jorge, here is an example of one guy. Here is the specific circumstances pertaining to this one person. Jorge's response, Tucker, you are criminalizing all immigrants. We are all MS-13, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Hashtag that.
Criminalizing anybody. I'm asking about this specific
what Donald
case.
Trump is doing.
Spare me your Univision talking points. I'm asking a real question.
Okay, this is the argument. The argument is that the vast majority of immigrants, and you've heard this argument, the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals and are not rapists.
I agree with that.
They're not, and they're less likely to be criminals and be behind bars.
That's not true.
Those are the facts. Okay,
no, that's
and
not
I'm
true. The second point is not true.
But look,
I agree. Most immigrants are great people. I'm not disputing
that. You cannot criminalize every immigrant all the time.
I'm not trying to
see. This is the routine. It's a pantomime. It is a playbook. He knows it. He's trolling Tucker. He knows that's not what Tucker's saying. But the point is, you don't engage with the actual point. That's been the strategy for the last 30 years. You don't engage with the actual point. You just project onto the person what their point is. You don't even listen to them. And you just keep saying it over and over and over and over and over again. Until more people say, yeah, he hates all immigrants. He thinks all immigrants are rapists. That's just what they do. That's it. It's an act. It's a performance. It's performance art. It's not a discussion. It's not a debate. He's being asked questions, but he's not answering them on purpose. There isn't a misunderstanding. There isn't a cultural barrier. He's showing you what the game is. You're criminalizing all immigrants. Most immigrants are great people. These are the same lines over and over and over and over again. It doesn't matter what you say in response. And then you just talk over the top of them.
To criminalize anybody. I'm not a law enforcement officer. I'm just noting that this guy has been charged in our country with homicide. And the authorities in Denver, for political reasons, under pressure from people like you, have decided that they're not going to turn him over to the feds, and now he walks free. Why should I, as an American citizen, be happy about that? That's it. I'm not attacking all immigrants.
So the argument... So I wish I could have that influence, but so the argument is about sanctuary cities. That's what you complain, right? That's what you don't want. Well, I mean...
Well, the sanctuary city... And then he's off, right? Let's do this one more time. Like you can see it coming a mile away.
Authorities in Denver, for political reasons, under pressure from people like you, have decided that they're not going to turn him over to the feds, and now he walks free. Why should I, as an American citizen, be happy about that? That's it. I'm not attacking all immigrants.
So the argument...
Okay, so all of these specific circumstances, why should I be happy that this guy's now free? Answer.
So I wish I could have that influence. But so the argument is about sanctuary cities. That's
And then he's away. So the argument's about sanctuary cities. Not that I'm aware of. And he's off. He's down the track. He is out of the gates, ladies and gentlemen. Coming up around the outside of xenophobia, we've got bigotry running hard along the rail. Coming up to speaks behind them is sanctuary cities. We've got one man. He's been let out of prison. He's an escaped felon. He's walking free now. Why should Americans be happy about that? And sanctuary cities down the outside, ladies and gentlemen. Sanctuary cities wins by a nose. Jorge Ramos, the proud owner of a fallacious and ridiculous redirection. Take it away, Jorge.
what you complain, right? That's what you don't want. Well, I mean, I think
saying in this specific case, no, I'm not trying to...
You complain about sanctuary cities because that's what you don't want. Look at Tucker. He's like, what are you doing, mate? Okay, so the argument is about sanctuary cities, and let's talk about why you don't want them.
Immigrants that nobody else wants to defend.
Why this guy? Why this guy? He's charged with homicide. People in Denver don't care about theoretical arguments about Trump being mean to immigrants. They don't want a guy charged with homicide who's here illegally wandering the street.
I'm not here to defend criminals. I'm not here to defend criminals, but just to criminalize all the immigrant population simply because of one person would be like, if I would...
To criminalize the whole immigrant population simply because of one guy would be evil, Tucker. Get it through your thick Republican skull.
Criminalize or the white population simply because of what's
the white population
did in Las Vegas, killing 58.
Well, you're part of the white population. If I could just point out, you always pull that on knock that stuff off. I'm not. You know what?
It is completely unfair to criticize the whole population or a whole group simply because of one person.
Okay. Of course, I agree with that.
Look, see the smirk. He knows, mate.
People on the basis.
Jorge knows.
Okay. Of course, I agree.
There you go. He's like, I'm so fucking smooth, man. Nobody suspects a thing. I am owning this shit.
Agree with that. You should never attack people on the basis of things that other people did, of course. But I'm not talking about all people. I'm talking about this person who was protected by policies that you support and have advocated for. And the rest of us are suffering because of that. So why don't you tell me why it's a good idea to let this specific guy out of jail, Mr. Neck Tattoo, charged with homicide, and why should we be happy about that? They could have turned him over to the feds, and they didn't because of pressure from you.
Again, I'm not here defending any criminals, but I'm.
So will you say that this is a bad decision?
I'm not defending any criminals, but I'm not going to say anything bad about the policy either, ladies and gentlemen.
But I think sanctuary cities is a good idea. I think somebody has to defend immigrants. You know, I was listening.
I'm not defending criminals. Somebody has to defend immigrants. And we're back to all immigrants again. Bang! Race number 2. We're back to all immigrants. No. Just this guy. Let's talk about this one guy. Well, I'm not defending criminals. But sanctuary cities are a good idea because of all immigrants, and you hate all immigrants in sanctuary cities. Okay.
I'm going to defend the rest of us. Why should we be for this, American citizens?
Let me give you another argument. I've been listening to what's happening in Los Angeles. It's also sanctuary city. And the Los Angeles Police Chief, Charlie Beck, said the following, that the reports of sexual assault and domestic violence in the city Latinos residents has declined. Why? Because of fear. And then he said the following, which I think is very powerful. He said, imagine a young woman, imagine your daughter, your sister, your mother not reporting a sexual assault because they are afraid that their family will be torn apart.
Let me just say, he doesn't know that.
You don't support,
hold on. No, that's not a real statistic because
this is what
it's
could happen.
Purely, no, it's not. That's purely speculative. He's a political hack sucking up to his political masters. He can't know that. That's not social science.
Sexual assault, 20%. The reports of domestic violence decreased 10% within the city, the Latino population. So this is happening. This is real.
I think I didn't see you in my statistics class in college, and you should have come because you would have known that's not a real one. Anyway, Jorge, thank you for.
Yep. It's all okay, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Fear not. It's all okay. The reason that sanctuary cities should be kept as they are and literal murderers allowed back onto the streets is because in one area of Los Angeles reporting of sexual assault is down 10% because people are afraid of illegal immigrants being deported. Yep. Thank you, Jorge. Thank you very much. That was very illuminating.